the foundation for every single brand or everything that I ever do is organic. It's always the foundation. It's where I start. I never start with paid.
How I found about you, I think I was scrolling through Instagram and then I saw your profile and you talked about organic sort of marketing, and it was a really unique approach because in our space everyone's talking about TikTok ads, Google ads, and there's not many people focus on organic. You're sort of like Gary Vee, but like you're really like, it's like this is the strategy.
Yeah, that's what we mostly try to explore and try to work with. I had originally got into digital marketing, gosh, a long time ago. My original background was with nonprofits, though. So probably about 10 years ago, I started doing some marketing for nonprofits, both digital and just normal marketing, right? Because back in the day, there was that mixture, right? So that's what I spent my original marketing days doing. And then about a few years ago, I would say about 4 years ago, I started getting into digital marketing. The first space that I actually jumped into was SEO. It was something that fascinated me just on a personal level, as far as just one of those marketing hacks, because I knew, for example, that it wasn't something that was being commonly talked about. Like, just like you said, everyone always talks about, especially then, everyone was talking about Facebook ads. And that was everything back then, right? Facebook ads was everything. There wasn't even talk about organic TikTok or organic Instagram or anything. It was all ads. But then I also knew that there was a huge number of people that were Googling things, right? Like, obviously, like, everyone finds their stuff on Google, but no one was talking about how to actually show up first for these searches and actually get traffic from it, right? It was always just kind of this theoretical thing where Google was a search engine that everyone used to find everything. But if all of a sudden, when it comes to having a brand or when it comes to having a product that you're selling, no one ever talked about how to get your product first on Google so that you would show up to everyone's eyes. And it seemed illogical to me at the beginning, right? Because I would always think about, right, okay, if I am Googling something, the odds of me wanting to purchase that item are extremely high, right? And I would always think about it in comparison with a Facebook ad, right? And I would look at Facebook ads and I would say, what's the goal of a Facebook ad? Well, a Facebook ad has to convince me to buy something. Then it has to convince me to leave the platform and to go to the website. And then when I'm on the website, I'm still not fully convinced, and they have to reconvince me again to actually buy the product. Whereas with SEO or with Google or with organic in general, but specifically with SEO, I am already on my computer Googling something. It's because I want it. Like, if I'm Googling deodorant, it's because I'm looking for deodorant. So whoever shows up first, at least the first three spots, more than likely I'm going to buy from one of those. Whoever shows up the first and whoever has the best website, right? Like, that's kind of the underlying principle. So it seemed illogical to me that people spent so much money on ads, but they weren't willing to spend that money to show up in Google. And sure, there's a way to do it with Google ads and stuff like that, with pay-per-click. But one of the studies that came out about pay-per-click is that people actually, about 75% of all people, skip over Google ads and go to that first organic spot, right? So you're only getting a small amount of that traffic that actually comes from Google. And in e-commerce specifically, 42% of all people that buy something, they Google it first before they even buy it, right? And now that obviously translates into Googling it and then Amazon showing up first and they going to Amazon. But back in the day, it was Googling it and showing up on eBay, Googling it and showing it up on Etsy. But brands have never really focused on trying to show up first. Like, you have your Adidas and your Nikes that are always showing up first just because they've been around forever. But there was a very small percentage of brands that were like, hey, I want to show up in Google first so that when people Google things about my specific niche, I can show up first. And that was one of the things that was a huge disconnect for me, and it seemed illogical. And that was one of the things. And then just with organic in general, the second thing that was huge for me is that organic was always compounding, right? Like, it was scalable. With ads, you spend $1,000 You get a 5x ROAS, and then you're getting $5,000, right? And to get $10,000, you have to spend 2,000. And to get $20,000, you have to spend 4,000, right? Like you have to spend more money every single month if you want to scale. With organic SEO, I can start my first month getting 1,000. And then if I get 1,000 the next month, well, now I'm at 2,000, but I'm still spending the same amount of time. And then the month after that, I'm at 3,000, but I'm still spending the same amount of time. So by the end of the year, I'm at 1,000,000, and I'm still spending the same amount of time or the same amount of money to the people that are actually doing the work. So it's something that actually compounds and builds over time. So it seemed illogical to me for brands to constantly be pushing money into ads and not sparing some of it for organic traffic that can actually build on top of each other and compound, and build on top of each other and compound. I mean, you can see it from the big, just from a social media side, you can see it from the big actors and actresses that when they're starting their brands, right? Like when Kylie Jenner starts a brand, or when The Rock starts a brand, or when Kevin Hart starts a brand, like all of a sudden they're $1 million companies just because they have built their organic audience. They aren't paying for traffic. Sure, there's a lot of paying stuff that goes into what they're doing, into their branding, into their website, all that kind of stuff. But because they already have that traffic, because they already have that personal brand, that organic traffic, they're able to scale these brands quickly. So if a brand has that, and a brand has that reputation, every time they launch a new product, everyone's going to be hungry for that product. And you didn't have to pay anything to get there for that specific product. Sure, it cost you time, but at that point, when you're at that point, it's invaluable. I know that was a lot of rambling. Sorry, go ahead.
That's amazing. I love your hat, by the way. It totally makes sense. The black sheep, you're sort of doing your own thing.
Yeah, it's my spirit animal.
So with organic, will it work for sort of more general stores, like sort of female fashion, tech stores, fitness stores, or does it work better with sort of one product stores around like a specific like blackhead remover type of thing?
Right. I mean, there are advantages and disadvantages, obviously. It's very similar to kind of like niching down a business, right? Like if I have a marketing agency, or if I have some kind of education platform, like niching down obviously is always one of the best things to do at the beginning, because then you have a much more specific market and you can spend all your energy and all your time on those specifics. And then from there, once you've grabbed the attention of that group of people, you're able to expand, right? Like I've seen education platforms that start specifically with graphic designers, for example. Like we're just going to teach you how to do graphic design. And then once we've taught you how to do that graphic design, then we will expand into teaching web design, into SEO, into different things like that, right? So it's very similar with e-commerce. Can it be done? Yeah, absolutely. You can, because you can start targeting hundreds of different keywords and hundreds of different niches at the same exact time. And it's very possible to start ranking for all those. But what you're going to do is, if you don't have thousands and thousands of dollars to invest in it, you're going to end up spreading yourself very thin. So normally, even for like general stores where they come to us and they're like, hey, we don't have a huge budget, but we want to start doing our SEO, and they have skirts, shirts, socks, all of it, right? Then we'll just pick one small little niche, try and target that first, and then spread out to the rest of their store.
Got it. And is it possible to do SEO on like a Shopify platform? Is it as simple as adding tags to all the product listings and having really in-depth description? Or where do you start? Like, let's say you have a Shopify store, I sell female dresses, there's maybe skirts, female sort of shirts, jackets. Where do I start on my Shopify platform?
So I kind of divide SEO up into 3 different pillars, right? The first pillar was something that was super important about 10 years ago, where when Google first came out, ranking for keywords and ranking on Google was super easy, right? Like you just had to throw a bunch of keywords on a page, make sure that your page didn't have any errors, that the site speed was fast, all that kind of stuff. And then you would start ranking for things. But as society evolved and as Google evolved and their algorithm evolved, we quickly found out that people can do that and still be scammers, right? Like I can have a perfect site, I can have all my keywords up there, and my brand can still be a sham, or I can still have bad customer service, or I can have poor products, or all these different things. So that's when Google started adding on a lot more modifications to their algorithm. And that also came about with the birth of social media, and how social media gave social proof such an important position, right? Like, it doesn't matter how bad your content was necessarily. If it was valuable, if it was good quality, if people liked it, then it would still expand out there, right? So I've seen sites that are riddled with errors, that have very slow site speed, but they're making millions in revenue because they have that social proof behind them. So that first pillar nowadays is relevant. You should fix those things, the things that you're talking about, adding those tags, making sure your site speed is good, all that kind of stuff is still valuable and it should be done, but it's not the primary thing you should be doing with SEO anymore. The thing you should be doing with SEO are the last two pillars, which once again was highly influenced by social media. The second one is content creation, so actually getting content onto your website, and then optimizing your current content to make sure that it's actually the right amount of keywords, that it is that it's not too redundant, and that it's actually valuable for people. And then the way to get content on your site, there's kind of two different ways to do it. One is adding products, which isn't necessarily the best solution for everyone. And then the other one is having a blog, right? And so that's what we see a lot of these huge brands having, and a lot of other up and coming brands doing, is they're actually creating these blogs, because basically what this content creation is good for, it's like hashtags on social media, right? If I'm throwing up a photo of a sunset, I'm going to put hashtag sunset, because Instagram's bots can't see my photo, right? They can only read the words. So it's the same thing with Google. Google can't see your photos. It can see the alt text on your images, but it can't see what you're selling. It can't see all the videos and the images and all the little nuances. So you need to tell Google what your site is about, right? So that's what we do with content creation. When we're writing these blogs, when we're putting this content out there, after we've done keyword research and kind of seen what different keywords we want to rank for, then we're going to start making content for this. And just like social media, it needs to be quality content, right? Like something that's actually valuable to people. We're not just going to be throwing a bunch of words up there that aren't legible, or that's just a bunch of run-on sentences with a bunch of keywords thrown in there, because Google will also see if people jump into that blog and then they're bouncing out real quick, like that bounce rate. If they see that increase, then they'll be like, okay, well, this is junk, and that goes into that social proof too. So that content is basically telling Google, hey, I want to rank for this word. This is what my site is about. This is what we do. And this is what I want to rank for. And then in order to rank for those certain keywords, this is where that, once again, that social proof. And I kind of combine this up and compare it to like shares on Instagram, which are the backlinks or the link acquisition, where you're actually getting backlinks from other blogs. And a backlink is basically when another blog or another website mentions your blog or website, like they hyperlink to it. For example, if I have a blouse company, or someone that sells, or a company that sells skirts, I would want to get on a fashion blog for women, right? And then if they're doing a ranking of like the top skirts for 2022, I want to be on that list. Doesn't really matter where, I just want to be on that list. And this doesn't necessarily serve as something that brings you traffic. Like, you're not looking for that blog's traffic. You're looking for their domain authority, which is what Google uses to rank sites. It's like their grading mechanism. For Instagram, the grading mechanism mostly is followers, right? However many followers you have, that's kind of like how legitimate your profile is. On Google, whatever your domain authority is, that's how legit your brand is, or that's how legit your website is, right? So you want to get backlinks from sites that have a high domain authority, right? And then when they mention your site, once again, we're not looking for traffic. We're looking for that social proof of saying, hey, look, Google, that site just mentioned me. They mentioned me. They have a high domain authority, so I'm legitimate, right? Like, that's basically the idea. And then you want to try and get as many backlinks as you possibly can, just like shares on social media, right? Like, if I'm putting a photo out there, I want as many shares as I possibly can. Obviously, if I'm getting shared by verified accounts or accounts that have 100,000 followers, it's much, much better for me. But I just want as many shares as possible, right? Because Instagram's algorithm sees that and they're like, All right, need to push this out to more people because people are sharing it. Same with Google. Google sees that a lot of people are mentioning your site, a lot of people are mentioning your blogs, your products. They're going to push it out to more people. And you're going to start ranking higher and higher for those keywords.
Now on Instagram, there's like these verified engagement groups where you can join them, and everyone. I've found out that the same thing exists on LinkedIn, where there are these groups with people with tons of followers on LinkedIn, and they just sort of post on each other posts. Is there something similar for SEO?
So there is, but just like in the social media, I mean, there's shortcuts for everything. Everyone's always trying to find a shortcut for something. But just like in social media, it's highly frowned upon. And if it's discovered, obviously the platform is going to remove you. So there is a way to actually buy backlinks where you can actually go to websites and they'll sell you like 100 backlinks or 1,000 backlinks, and you just pay a certain amount. And it's just on these bot sites that basically just reference your site or databases or something like that, right? Like a Yellow Pages type thing where it's just a list of a ton of businesses and then you'll be listed on there as well. So there is, that does exist, but there are two negative sides to it. The first negative side is they tend to be sites that have a low domain authority, which is what we're after in the first place, which is the same issue that we have with those kinds of accounts or those kinds of bots that are sharing your photo, or even those engagement groups where everyone's liking and commenting on everything. They tend to be not our audience and not what we want, right? So Google's going to see that for one, and they're going to see that this site has thousands and thousands of backlinks to random sites. Like they're not idiots. Instagram sees it too, which is why those groups tend to actually snuff your engagement rather than increase it. That's the first issue, right? Is that they tend to be low quality, and then Google tends to notice as well. The second issue is it's actually illegal. Like in Google's algorithm, it says that you can't do it. So for example, if those backlinks were ever taken from you, the backlinks that you purchase, it's not like you can go to Google and be like, no, I swear I had 1,000 of them, and now I just have 100. It's not like you can go and, because you bought them illegally in the first place, right? Like there's no backlink police to go to, right? So the best way in the end is always to legitimately get them. And the only way to legitimately get backlinks is one, over time with hype, just people will start talking about you. And then the way that agencies or myself actually does it is we spend hours and hours every single month sending out outreach emails, basically cold emails to these blogs, right? Where we're saying, hey, check out my site, check out my product, check out what I got going on. I think it would be valuable for your blog, right? And blog owners want to find valuable content that they can write about because they make money based on how many visitors they have coming to their site. So if they have quality content, then they're going to have quality visitors coming to their site. So they're constantly looking for that new content, new things to write about, and kind of like the I'll scratch my back if you scratch mine type thing. Because then maybe they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, but mention me in your next blog or something like that. So it has that kind of camaraderie feel to backlinks, and that's the best way to get it, because then you know what kind of backlinks you're getting. You're able to actually target your specific niche. You're able to target the domain authority that you actually want. Like if I'm like, I don't want a domain authority below 30, then I'm not going to send out emails to people below 30. So that's the best way to do it. And then there's some people like me that also have a cheat code where I've actually just through the years, I've been able to collect websites. So I own more than 70,000 websites where I'm able to retrieve backlinks from, which is kind of the cheat code that my agency does for people. So we do about 40 plus hours of organic backlinking every single month. And then we also retrieve from the sites that I own.
Got it. That's pretty cool. When you say you own the sites, how do you own 70,000 websites? How does that work?
Well, the same way that you own your website, right? Like you created it, you designed it, you write the blog content for it, you maintain it, and it's yours, right? So the way to do that is either creating or buying, right? So there's places where you can go and buy websites that are already created. Like for example, if I wanted to create a website on one of my websites, for example, I have a website for vegans that travel, right? Where whenever they travel throughout the world, it's basically a list of restaurants that are vegan, that are the best ones in that town that you're in, whatever part of the world you're in, right? So if I wanted to build this website up, I could, and then I could sell it to someone that's interested in having it, that's interested in maintaining it. So all of these websites are maintained, they are nurtured, have content written for them. But the purpose for me is for my clients, right? And then I also just like it as a hobby as well to have different blogs and different websites like that.
That's crazy. Does that mean you have like 70,000 logins, 70,000 WordPress subscriptions, a bunch of employees working on creating 70,000 pieces of content a year?
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit more automated and simple than that. Just as far as like hosting and stuff, I have my own servers, so I don't go through traditional hosting. I rent my own servers and have my own all that kind of information. I have my own blog writers, all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit more simplified than that, but it's similar, yeah.
That's super cool. And how long did it take to build that up? And is that still a main part of your business? Those sort of blog websites and getting traffic and getting AdSense, or is that just mainly for the backlinks for your agency and clients for SEO?
There are some that have AdSense on it just for the cost of maintenance, which is kind of the idea behind it. I just want to be able to cover my cost of maintenance, because the main code or the main idea behind the sites are for backlinks. Like that's what I want them for. I'm sure if I spent more time on the actual maintenance side and growing them, then I could make some money there, but I make more money on this side. So
That makes sense. Now, does posting content on TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and then having your website and then people clicking onto your domain, does that increase your domain authority, or does it not work like that?
So oddly enough, Facebook and Pinterest do. So page likes, shares, and different things like that on Facebook, and then pins on Pinterest actually help with SEO. Not sure why those are the two platforms. Reddit also helps as well. Not sure why those are the platforms that do, and why Instagram hasn't been added into that mix. But I don't know if it's just because Google hasn't been able to figure out how to add it in, or what it is. Obviously, YouTube does contribute as well, since YouTube is Google, but it doesn't necessarily contribute to your website. It's just going to bring traffic to you, right? Like, so if I have a marketing agency and I put marketing videos up and people find me through those marketing videos, then through that avenue, they'll learn about me and then learn about my agency, but it won't necessarily boost my site up there. It's not spelled out, I guess is the way of saying it. Like, yes, there is something that goes on in the algorithm, but it's not like spelled out. Like if you have 100,000 subscribers, your site's going to rank.
Interesting. Now, if you were to sort of get started with your own sort of e-commerce brand or store or niche, would you get started with creating blogs for your Shopify store, or would you go straight to creating like TikTok organic content, Pinterest pins, YouTube shorts, Instagram reels? Where would you start, Zach?
This is funny, actually. I'm starting a brand right now, so I can just walk you through the exact process that, or another brand, I should say. I'll walk you through the exact process that I go through for a new brand. The foundation for every single brand or everything that I ever do is organic. It's always the foundation. It's where I start. I never start with paid. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, because I believe that honestly, organic is part of your identity and your branding, and it can't be missed. Like it's not 3 years ago where you can throw up a brand and then start running Facebook ads, and then you're just going to start making a ton of money, right? Like that's not scalable anymore. And most of the time those ads aren't going to be profitable unless you're spending like 10,000 to 15,000 a month, right? So it's just not completely legitimate or probable for a lot of people that are starting off with a smaller budget or something like that. But those who are starting off with larger budgets, the way that I always set up a brand is the kind of the organic footing for it. So there's a few different aspects to that. The first one is SEO, obviously, where I'm going to create that website and then start doing all three of those pillars first. I'm going to start fixing on everything on the site, start writing content, and then start going after backlinks. Like that is what I start with first. And then I just leave that running forever. Like I don't ever have a reason to stop that until the brand shuts down, right? Because the more that I do it, the more traffic I get, the more traction I get. Even if I'm doing it in 10 years, I'm hoping to have millions in revenue every single month from organic, right? Because there's no cap to it. It's not like, oops, hit 100,000 visitors each month. That's all I can get. Nope. There's billions of people that Google every single day, right? So that's what your cap is every person that uses Google. So that's the first step for me, always, for a brand. The second step is the social media strategy. The social media strategy goes hand in hand with the third step, which is the company culture. Company culture is one of the most powerful things that a brand can have, and also one thing that most brands are lacking. So it's always the first thing that I'm going to look for or try and discover, right? And so that is the audience that I am looking for, and the problem that I'm solving for that audience, and how I'm going to solve it for them, and how I'm going to position myself as the best solution to that problem. And I often use Gymshark as a reference. One of the beautiful things that Gymshark did is they became much more than just an athleisure brand or an athletic wear brand, right? They not only became an athletic wear brand, they became a voice for the active community, right? And that was done intentionally. And that is how they were able to grow organically so quickly, and why their ads were so effective and so cheap, is because they created this community of people that were just in love with exercise and in love with going to the gym and lifting weights. Like, even if you go to their Instagram profile, most of their stuff that they post to this date is just people lifting weights, right? Like, and they don't sell weights, they don't sell gym memberships, they don't sell gyms, they don't do anything like that. They sell clothing. But obviously when they're lifting weights, they see the people with the shark logo. But what they were able to create is this community of people that could come together, that were all compatible, that were all looking for the same thing. They were all looking to go to the gym. They offered them exercise plans. They offered them diet plans. They put them into these specific groups where they were actually able to nurture this audience. And then that audience that they were nurturing was then spread out because they told their friends about it, right? Like any trend, right? Once you hear about a trend and once you like a trend, you're going to tell your friends, like a keto diet type thing. Like, oh, I just tried the keto diet. It transformed my life. I'm going to go tell everyone about it, right? Like it's the new pyramid scheme that I just discovered. And that's kind of the idea behind creating a culture, is creating that same feeling that people have when they're inside of that pyramid scheme, right? As if they were earning money for doing it. And there are ways actually to convert people into making monies for it, using something like there's an app on
Snowboard.io. You can refer people.
Basically converts your people into everyone that buys from you into ambassadors. So there is a way that they can actually make money from it, but it's the same exact concept. It's the same concept of converting those people into your ambassadors. Hey, tag me in a picture and I'll repost it onto my account, or you'll get a 10% off, whatever it is, right? Like there's ways to create that culture. But for example, there's a brand that I was just talking to the other day where it was a brand of children's clothing, right? And one of the things that we were talking about is how can we create a culture for one of my clients? How can we create a culture with this children's brand? Well, who's our target audience? Mothers. What problem are we solving for them? Well, we're bringing them cute clothes. Okay, great. That's fantastic. What problems can we solve for them then? Well, there's all these different things that mothers struggle with. So let's start building resources for mothers with things that they struggle with. And how are we going to do that? Well, there's a couple different ways to do it. The one that we decided to go with was a Facebook group, where we actually built a Facebook group for mothers. And all they do is talk all day about the problems that they have. They can't sleep. They can't do this. Oh, try taking this supplement. It helped me sleep. Oh, do this with your baby. Use this product. It helped me out. But guess what? It was for a brand. And so every time there was a brand launch, boom, the product was pushed out there. And everyone that was sold on this brand, because they were in this community, because the owners of this community nurtured them, they built relationships with them, and they built this culture around it. It became much more than just a brand. It became a lifestyle that they wanted to go after. It's like CrossFit. Like the only rule about CrossFit is always talk about CrossFit, right? It's the same exact idea of building that culture, and the power in that culture is worth more than any ad spend that you can do, right? So that's always my base layer, is in social media, trying to find that strategy of how to build that culture, and then setting up the framework and setting up the strategy so that I can do that. And the reason that I do this is because once I start spending money on ads, I'm able to capture a lot of people in that net that I've created. So then even if I'm spending $35 per lead or $35 per purchase, or if I'm getting a 2x ROAS, I know that a lot of those people that bought from me are going to stick in my net that I've created, or stick in that web that I created. And then they're going to buy again. They're going to tell all their friends. They're going to post it on their social media. So then that $35 lead turned into like a $1 lead because it multiplied by 10, whatever, right? That's the idea behind a way to build a solid brand organically nowadays. And SEO only helps with that, right? Because like I said, 42% of all people go to Google before they purchase something. So if someone sees your ad, 42% of those people are going to Google to check it out on Google. 42% of those people that see your ad are going to Google to check it out. So you're losing almost half your audience by not showing up on Google. And then if you don't have a solid social strategy organically, a lot of those people are going to go to your social media, see that it sucks, see that you don't post consistent content, see that people aren't engaging, see that you don't have people commenting quality things, which is all part of that creating the culture and engaging with people. Then they're going to leave from there too, because they're going to think it's just a scam. And a lot of these stereotypes and a lot of these red flags pop up from people because a lot of what happened with drop shipping and all the stuff that happened with spending all that money on drop shipping and having the terrible customer service, terrible product quality, all that kind of stuff, right? So because of that, and just because people kind of got wise to their ways, creating this kind of community is the best way and one of the only ways that I believe to build a brand right now. And TikTok and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, they're just extensions of it, right? So building a TikTok audience, all those people are going to go to your website, or they're going to Google you, or they're going to go to your Instagram, or they're going to go to your YouTube channel, whatever it is. So I'm a firm believer in an omnipresent strategy where you're on every single organic platform. And then the best way, honestly, with ads as well is the same, having that omnipresence is pushing ads through Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Google, and make sure that you're capturing all of them so that it's like a giant web, so that even if I grab someone up here and they go over to my website and they don't purchase, they just add something to cart, well, my email marketing is going to grab them, right? Or they see my ad and then they follow me on social media instead of purchasing, well, my content's going to grab them. Or they see my ad and then they go to Google something and I'm showing up on all the top searches, well, my SEO is going to grab them, right? Where normally if I didn't have those processes in place, I would have lost all those people.
Got it. And when you're sort of creating a community, whether it's like a Facebook group or creating blog posts, answering those problems that the sort of brand is trying to solve, how long will it take before your store's getting, say, 300 visitors a day, 1 purchase a day? How long would that process take usually?
Well, there's no way to quantify organic, right? It's very difficult, especially now with how saturated organic is becoming, because people are realizing that it works, right? Especially with like TikTok. Like TikTok last year, videos that we were getting thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of views for, now we're getting 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000. Like even with my own organic content at the beginning of the year, I was getting for the same exact content 20 to 100,000 views, and now I'm getting 2,000 to 25,000 views, right? So just the saturation is made it harder to quantify, right? To be able to say, hey, by the end of this time, you're going to make this much money. And just in general, with an organic strategy, it would be kind of stupid to kind of predict it anyways, because you can't really know if something is going to go viral or if it's going to take 6 months to go viral, or if you don't get anything viral at all and it's just a steady growth, right? So those are the things you can't really quantify. Like I can't say I'm going to get you on the first page of Google in 6 months. I have no idea how long it's going to take. right? It could take a year, it could take 1 month, right? Like there's one brand that we started with, and after a month, they started ranking for it was like women's performance yoga pants or something like that. Just after the first month, very competitive keyword, hard to get, and they got it like immediately. And so there's no way of predicting it because that word could have taken us a year or 2 years to get. So that's the funky thing about organic, is you have to be consistent with it. And if you have the funds, go after ads, because ads are what's going to bring you that immediate revenue, but it's also going to bring you that extra traffic to organic, which is going to help your organic grow faster, right? Because we talked about that. Like you get an ad and then they go and follow you on Instagram just because they saw your ad. Well, now your Instagram is growing more because you're running ads, right? So that's why omnipresent is important, because you're trying to create this web so that none of the mosquitoes can get through, right?
That's super cool. Now, let's say, let's go back to the female fashion store, for example. Would you like talking about the first pillar and the 3 pillars and the first thing you do when it comes to SEO, and how SEO is the first thing you do? Does that mean you would come in, you would check out the Shopify store? Let's say the problem the fashion store is trying to solve is they're trying to help female learn how to dress, create content like 7 New York winter fits, how to wear a dress without a belt. So you'll be creating these pages on Shopify every single day, and you'll try to be consistent, let's say 1 a day. How do you know it's working? How do you know these Shopify pages on your websites are actually bringing in viewers and this is working, and after 30 days that this is worth it and I should continue?
Yeah, I mean, so every day would be a little bit of an overkill. I mean, unless you're really ambitious. And I wouldn't, for a lot of people, I don't necessarily recommend doing SEO just because there's so much manpower and hours that go into it to be able to do it effectively, right? Like it's kind of, I compare it once again kind of to Instagram, and I do that a lot just so that people can kind of understand the concept. If you're not going to post on Instagram consistently and you're not going to do everything right, don't do it at all, right? Like it's a waste of your time. If you're going to post every single day for a couple weeks and then skip a week and then post again and then skip a week and then post again consistently for a month and then stop doing it, like it's dumb, right? Like you're just wasting your time. And it's very similar with SEO as well. If everything's not going to be done consistently and efficiently, it generally shouldn't be done, right? And I know it seems like I'm saying that because I have an agency and I just want people to pay me to do it. But honestly, it's just, if you're just going to even pay for part of it, like some people will go to Upwork or some people will go to Fiverr and be like, hey, come fix all the errors on my site. Don't do that either. That's a waste of time, because even if you fix those errors on your site, if you're not getting backlinks, if you're not creating content, you're not going to actually get the results you need. You need all 3 pieces of the pie in order to start ranking. So doing one of them or doing it mediocre, you're not going to rank, so it's going to be a waste. So there's a lot of man hours that goes into it. So for a site specifically, to answer your question as to how you are able to see results, well, there's a few different ways, right? There's softwares online that you can use to see how much organic traffic you get, what keywords are bringing you organic traffic, how much organic traffic they're bringing you. Neil Patel's Uber Suggests is one of those. You can use SEMrush. Moz is one of those. All of those will tell you which keywords you're ranking for, how many backlinks you have, what your domain authority is, how many visitors those backlinks or those keywords are bringing. And then Google Analytics is another good one. It has to be programmed very specially to kind of show you which keywords are bringing you how much, but what it can show you is how much money you're making organically from traffic. So if you go into Google, go to the attribution, go to the Google search, it'll say, and you have your e-commerce part set up, it'll say you're getting X amount of revenue every single month, or depending on the date range that you put in, to be able to find out how much you're making organically.
Given that SEO would be really difficult to get started with, if there's like a new sort of brand owner, let's say I have this person, she has this sort of education robot. It's like a robot that teaches little kids. Which social platform would you recommend her to get started on if she wanted to go down this organic route?
All of them. Focus on one and then repost that content, right? So what I did in the beginning of my personal brand is I focused on Instagram. That's where I created all my content. And then what I did from that content is I used it, repurposed it for other platforms, right? So if I created a reel on Instagram, I'm going to take that same thing that I said, I'm going to write it out for Twitter and LinkedIn, and then I'm going to post it as a short on YouTube, and then I'm going to post it as a video on Pinterest. And then eventually you'll be able to get to the point where you can do specific strategies for each platform. Each platform, obviously, you have to make your voice different and different strategies, obviously.
Are these platforms getting really smart where they know if you're reposting the content? I don't know if it's maybe one of my accounts are shadow banned, but I do sometimes notice where certain platforms, I'm just getting no views for whatever reason, even though I know this content has worked on, say, Instagram Reels or Facebook Reels.
Yeah, they won't necessarily know. Most of the time, these platforms are very jealous of their traffic, right? Which is why Facebook is trying to be everyone, which is why Apple did iOS 14 and took all the traffic away from Facebook and screwed everyone's pixels up, is because they tend to be very zealous, right? They want it all. So that's why even Instagram is trying to make themselves more and more like Google with hashtags and keywords, so that when you search for something, it shows up, which is something that TikTok actually just started doing as well. So now there's actually TikTok SEO, where you can just search things in the search bar and it shows you what you're looking for, right? Because all these different platforms want all the traffic. That's, for them, the traffic is the money, right? It's not necessarily how much is being spent on ads. Sure, there's making a lot of money there, but the traffic is the money. The people's data is the money. So so they're not necessarily communicating saying, hey, Frank over here, he's posting about stuff that he shouldn't, because they're not interested in talking about their users or cross-referencing that at all. But you will have cases, like I said, there are specific organic strategies that work for each platform, and every single platform is different. So I can have a video that pops off on TikTok, I get 1 million views, post it on Instagram, and then I get 20, because it's just how it is, even if I have the same amount of followers. Because there's certain videos that work for certain platforms that work at certain times. And that's especially true for TikTok. Like, even trends that that worked last week aren't going to work this week, but then could work next week. Because the trends go like this, where they kind of go up and down, where even if it is consistently a trend and people still like it consistently, there are certain times that it's better to post on the platform about it than others.
And what's your thoughts on like reposting viral content? Like, you've seen all these sort of wealth pages, motivational pages, just repost motivational clips of other entrepreneurs, and they get tons of reach. What's your thoughts on that strategy to build a brand? And also, like, I've tried this and it doesn't work. Like, you have to like really edit the content, like speeding up the videos doesn't really work. Changing the first 3 seconds, last 3 seconds doesn't work. Is it just me, or are these platforms somehow knowing if you're sort of ripping content, and is there a way around it?
There is a way around it. If you're looking to make money off of a product, it's not the way to go. The only way, in my opinion, the only way it is good is if you're looking to drum up traffic. So I think of it more as kind of like a blog, right? Like, if I'm looking to make money off of traffic and off of people posting on my blog, then that's the kind of content that I'm going for. I'm going for stuff that everyone's Googling and everyone wants to see. I have seen people use it for brands, and I have seen it epically fail, right? Because you have to think about the user's intent when they're watching those videos. I'm coming to learn something. I'm coming to be entertained. And once you start selling me something, I'm going somewhere else, right? Now, people follow brands because they're interested in the brand and they're interested in the products. If I'm following one of those motivational pages, it's because I want to be entertained or I want to be educated. So once someone starts selling me something, that's when my brain clicks off. And so I've seen brands try to do it and utilize it, but to no avail, or to very little return. So they'll get 100,000 followers from all the memes and stuff they've been posting, but then they'll get minimal sales compared to other brands that have 100,000 followers. So you have to be, if you're looking for kind of entertaining educational content, you have to be very strategic about how you place your brand in there, and making sure that you do place your brand in there so that when people follow you, they know you're not tricking them into following you. They know it's a brand. Like when Gymshark shows their exercise videos, they zoom into their clothes with their logos, all that kind of stuff. Like it's evident it's a clothing brand. Like they're not trying to trick you into thinking, "Oh, come on over, we're going to teach you how to exercise." They're saying, "Hey, this is a clothing brand, but we also do the rest of this stuff." So I think that goes all into just kind of being honest and honest with your viewer and your user. Like if you follow me, this is what you're going to get. There's no tricks, there's no gimmicks.
Interesting. And let's say this is just an idea I just thought of, is like, let's say I wanted to create a stunning.com TikTok page, and I just wanted to share a bunch of golden nuggets from all these different sort of entrepreneurs and sort of teachers around the world. I guess the easy method would be just searching, let's say, Dalai Lama, go on TikTok, find a viral clip, download that and repost it, and maybe speed it up or change the first 3 seconds and ask. But I know TikTok is like, it wouldn't work, right? Or would that work?
It could absolutely work, yeah, because if something's gone viral before, it could work, it could go viral again, right? There's different changes obviously that you're going to make, so you'd want to chop it up a bit. But yeah, absolutely. I see people that do that all the time. Maybe just talking about those motivational ones, like you see the same videos over and over again. Like there's not a ton of nuances or new things for that, right? So a lot of it's just posting the same things over and over again and seeing what sticks. And that's mainly what TikTok is right now, is just testing. Just throwing everything at it and see what happens, see what ends up sticking, right? So for TikTok specifically, like posting once a day should be your minimum.
How about when it comes to content creation? What's your biggest tip on creating like a system where brands can create content every single day without burning out? Because I've known, like with products, and you look for viral trends and you're filming that product, after like 7 days, that can get exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to do it is like I mentioned, being consistent. But even if it's a brand, like saying, "Hey, I'm going to start out doing 3 days," but then batching content, right? So that's the best way to do it. Is if I'm going to start recording content for something, I'm going to do it all in one day, all in one sitting, because that's when I can have my creative juices flowing, and where everything that I'm doing is going to be more efficient, right? Because if I'm looking to post every single day and record every single day, I'm going to get burnt out. I'm not going to want to do it some days. But if I sit down on Sundays and say, on Sunday I'm gonna bust out five videos, right? And if I do them all in once, then I do them like this, and then I just have the videos to kind of throw up there when it ever happens. And especially if you're doing 5 videos on Sunday, but you're only going to post 3 videos, then that content starts accumulating. So then you can kind of mix it up, right? Because obviously when you're doing batch content, like especially if I'm doing batch content for example, and I'm wearing a black shirt in every single video, people are gonna be like, he recorded this all in the same day. Like, you can't fool me. Mm-hmm. But if I'm batching that content up, and I'm not talking about, and then I have a bunch of different videos that are kind of accumulating. So I can grab one from that I did in August a week ago. Then I can grab one that I just did last week. Then I can grab one that I just did 2 weeks ago. So then I'm wearing different shirts, talking about different things, doing different things, right? Same for the brand. So if you're batching that content, a lot of those ideas are going to be super similar because you're thinking along the same lines. Just of the position, where it's shot, what part of the room, the lighting, all that stuff is going to be super similar. So once you start accumulating that content, then you can start mixing it up. This one I did at night. This one I did at a park. This one I did here, right? So then it'll be different in that way. But batching the content is by far the most efficient way to do it, because I can bust out 5 pieces of content in 10 minutes, right? But if I just did it one time every single day, it would probably take me 5 minutes every single day, because I have to get in the mood. I have to start thinking about it. I have to come up with ideas. But once you start thinking of those ideas, they just start flowing, because your creative juices are already flowing.
That makes sense. Thank you so much for your time today, Zach. Where's the best place for people to find out more about what you do, learn more about your amazing sort of, you dropped so many golden nuggets today. Where can people find more of that?
Instagram is the best spot. From there, you can kind of get directed to whatever your favorite platform is. But Instagram is the best spot. My handle is at Hey, so Hey, Zach Schubert. There you go. The man will show you. But yeah, that's the best way to find me. It's where I post. I post everywhere consistently now, but you'll be able to go to wherever your favorite platform is from there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Zach. I really appreciate the time today. I really loved how passionate about sort of marketing you are, and I really like your omni-channel sort of approach. It's really high level. It's a really longer term approach. And I think you're sort of selling people not like a short-term dream, but a long-term sort of Bible to follow. Like what you're saying is exactly how every brand should follow, long term. So I really appreciate the time today.
No, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me over. Just glad to share the things that I've learned, and I hope they work for other people also.
Most definitely. So yeah, that's another episode of the podcast. Hope you guys got value from this episode. If you guys made it this far, thank you so much for your time as always. And we'll see you guys next week with another episode. Peace.